I think it will be quite clear once this new exchange has the same impact and effect that we thought the page would have on the global spot market for physical gold. Once this new exchange has that same effect on silver, the spillover in perception and awareness will be much the same as the spillover is in futures price when price is manipulated downward like it was back on Wednesday. Folks will see what happens in silver when a true price discovery is applied, and they'll go, huh, I wonder what that gold, and have a coincident effect, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the thing is that although we want a fully allocated gold contract, and I imagine actually that will be doable once the political environment settles down a bit in China. I think that the guys who are setting this one up will be able to run with that. It's also true to say that a silver price discovery change, one that would really lead to some substantial short covering and a genuine move, will affect the gold price anyway. There's no way. The way the two things relate to each other, it's just simply impossible for silver not to affect gold, just as the way gold affects silver. And the two things, they don't march in lockstep. But there's such a strong relationship between the two, then I think it doesn't matter so much that we have to put the gold contract on the back burner in the meantime. And I think it's also thrown the importance of this political change in China into the spotlight. I think it's something which people probably are maybe less aware of than they might be. I think it's 8 out of 11 Politburo members are switching over, or 7, in the autumn. And there are big political changes coming. And it just seems to me, from what I'm hearing, that, the currency component of it has a role to play in due course.
Yes. I have maintained for years, and I would imagine you feel the same way, that ultimately there is a goal to apply at least partial asset backing to the renminbi. If that is ultimately your goal, and as folks have often stated, the Chinese are not planning for 6 months from now, they're planning for 60 years from now. If that is the goal, we don't want to upset the apple cart too much in the intervening next 12 to 24 months or 36 months or whatever it is. So,
no, and what's more, Ted, is if you think about it like this, Pan Asia Gold Exchange had the backing of regional government, and the central government were in support of it, whether explicit, but they were certainly there at the opening ceremony. A number of ministers and mandarins were there. But of course, the fact that they make this long-term, as long as that they do think in this long-term strategic way, it also means that decision-making at that level isn't exactly, sparky and quick and in line with global financial flows. Whereas this new entity is much more streamlined. It's much more, they benefited in a way from what's happened because they've learned quite a lot more about the process. I think I mentioned to you before that when the guys who set Page up came over to meet me the first time, or they didn't come over to meet me, they came over to London and I was one of the people they met with. The only meeting they'd had before I had lunch with them was with the LBMA. They just walked straight in there and told them what they were going to do. Let's just say I think they understand a bit better now the way that the market works. And I think, those of us in the gold bug community can pat ourselves slightly on the back about that. And, we've done a good job of expanding the discussion, as I say, slightly opening Pandora's box in terms of this question of how will price discovery be over the next 10 years. Let's try and think about things like that rather than, the next 10 weeks. And I think it's very difficult to stop what's obviously, both the right way to go, but also, a money-making opportunity because this exchange can attract a very large amount of business very quickly.
Ned, I am just sitting here laughing to myself, thinking about these guys, not to make them naive, but just that they would come and just stop by the LBMA and say, oh, hey, you guys might find this interesting. Look what we're doing. All right, let me kind of bring this together a little bit. The folks then that are responsible for setting up that are making this new exchange and bringing it to life are many of, if not the same people that were doing the page?
The same people.
With the same local and regional backing of Chinese ministers, other officials?
Well, that's where it's slightly divergent. Just to clarify this, yes, I should have clarified that earlier. So Pan Asia was effectively, I think it was 7 or 8 state-owned enterprises, and the international group. And the international group does include, deep-pocketed, powerful Chinese business people. But the state-owned enterprises effectively became the problem, and the way that operated was different. So if you could imagine 1/10 of the shareholder group of Page, and they're the guys that wanted the international contracts in the first place. So the other ones were more interested in that domestic leverage contract that was going to be rolled out by the Agricultural Bank in China, whereas the people behind the 1-for-1 allocated spot contract were the international facing people. So those guys who basically took their toy away and said, no, this clearly is being interfered with, this isn't going to work, we're going to set up our own entity. And because the People's Bank of China change about gold trading came in, that meant that they would have to start off with a silver contract, which of course, as I say, is actually a great thing. It works better for all of us. Those of us that have really, understand quite well how this works, recognize, in fact, this is the sweet spot rather than the gold contract, hence why we were, trying to get them to do the silver contract initially, but they were unwilling. They wanted to stick with gold initially. But no, so it's the guys behind the international allocated, international facing allocated 1-for-1 spot contract are setting up the same beast, but in silver, under a new name, which, as I said, we're not going to give you because it's only going to, attract the same type of intervention forces that were apparent last time round if we do that. So we're not going to do that. They're very close to being live, and next time Andy and I want to turn around to the market and say, right, here you go. If you have an interest in having, a fully backed receipt that you can trade in RMB, with the bar numbers, etc., fully visible, the register will change when you trade it, etc., then contact these guys and off you go.
So Ned, it's all very exciting, and I think everybody listening to this is excited about having a silver contract under the same design that the page was going to offer gold. I can't tell you how many emails I fielded in the days following the publicity that I gave the page of people wondering, hey, is there going to be a silver contract? How can we do this in silver? And so I know there are a lot of happy people listening to this podcast right now. How did you and Andrew McGuire get involved? You're becoming, in a sense, the Western frontmen of this, at least in my opinion. How did you get involved, and what do you see your role in this as we get closer to things going live?
Sure, very valid question, Todd. Well, the way it happened was pretty simple, really. I'm just very noisy. So quite a few people know me, and these guys were coming over to London. As I said, they booked a meeting with the LBMA and a bunch of other people on the more technical side of the market. And someone suggested they come and talk to me, and I went for lunch with them, and I explained the games that go on and the sort of dark underbelly of the bullion market, which they weren't probably as clear on as. I have to say they were quite quick on the uptake, though. They weren't. I think that was why they turned around to me and said, "Yeah, they did have a lot of questions, these guys at the LBMA." And I said, "Yeah, well, what a surprise! Obviously they did." And Andy, I know Andy because we were both invited to take part in the same documentary about silver manipulation about 2 years ago, and so we were put in touch with each other. I have to say that documentary unsurprisingly got canned, Turd. Actually, as I warned Andy at the time, I told him it wouldn't happen because it's too big a story, and we got to know each other, and we've become very friendly, and so I involved him because he's much more he has enormous experience in trading, which I don't have. I'm more involved in the structural side. I'm an asset manager. I spend much more time looking at mining companies than I do trading. So please, anybody, forgive me if I make technical boo-boos. It's only because it's not my specialist subject. But that's how we know each other, and our involvement is in effectively consulting and helping these guys, because our intention, I think, very much aligned with yours, and hence why you and I, speak quite regularly. It's simply to let that price fly. That's what we want to do. It's not about how much action have I got in this pie, or I want in, or whatever. It's not nothing to do with that. It's purely the fact that we have a system where the cards are stacked very high, origami style against us all. But the truth is, that's all it is. It's a house of cards, and it doesn't take that much to topple it. A little bit of sort of information flow in the right place can make a big difference, and that's hopefully the role that I play. I think Andy's much more helpful in terms of potential access to big players in the market. But that's the role we play, and hopefully it aids in some way.
Well, Ned, let's go get them. I understand what's been going on behind the scenes, and I think most of the folks listening do as well now. For the obvious reasons, to avoid what happened last time, the details you've got to kind of keep under your hat for now. But as we get maybe closer to the initiation of this contract and of this exchange, we'll visit again and get into more details. I know at the same time as you issuing the 2-page report, which is linked and included in this podcast on the podcast page, Andy is also visiting with Eric King today, and so I would encourage everybody listening to the cast to go from here now to King World News, and I will also try to include a link there, and listen to the interview that Andy is giving to Eric, so that you might have even more depth and detail about what is happening and where we go from here. I very much look forward to having you continue to do all that you're doing, Ned, and I look forward to hearing more about this and where we go from here when you're able to maybe later on this spring or early this summer.
Of course, and it would be an absolute pleasure, and you can take it as read that will happen. And I just want to also say, the work you do, Ted, is just fantastic. You're an absolute trooper. And I tell you the other thing is the knowledge curve and the contributions to the people who go on your site. It's fantastic. I'm so much of a regular, as you know, on there. Because the people who come on a daily basis, it's not just about you or the people who come on and do the podcast, as you well know. People have wonderful insights out there, and please, everyone, put their tuppence worth in. Hopefully, not throwing me too much, if possible. But I all kudos to you and the people who come on the site, and let's keep pushing forwards, and remember that it is a long battle, but we have to keep at it, and the price goes in our favour on the medium term, if not in the short term. And once price discovery is challenged and we get what the market needs most of all, which is competition, then I think things are going to change.
Ned, you're doing the Lord's work. Let's go get them. Thank you again for your time. Again, I encourage everyone to read the report that is attached that Ned authored and has published this week. I encourage you to skip over to King World News and listen to what Andy McGuire has to say. And I encourage everybody to silver and take delivery, hold it in their own 2 hands, and then put it in their safe, because to me it's only going much higher. Thank you, Ned. It's been a pleasure to visit with you. I look forward to getting more details as we move into the spring and the summer.
Thanks, Ed.